Hey, Brandon here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to our 2023 Devy BUYS show. Back with me for a fourth season is my good friend Cory. Welcome back, Cory.
Thanks, Brandon. We've actually done pretty well on these shows, I'd have to say. I mean, you're going to miss sometimes regardless, but the fact that we're getting hits on every seasons of these shows tells you need to be paying attention to what we're saying here. So hopefully we're going to hit some more names for you here today.
Yeah, so we're going to talk. Cory and I, the rookie draft is over. We're now looking to the 2023 college season, and of course, us Devy junkies, we always got our eyes on who's going to be drafted in 2024, who's going to be drafted in 2025. That's the fun of the game that we love so much. So we're going to talk about three players each today that are buys. So what do we consider a buy? Right, we consider a buy a player who we like, who we think in the course of next season value will increase. So maybe now is the opportunity if you are doing a startup Devy draft or any kind of supplemental draft. And one of these players maybe have fallen through the crack, because I have one player I'm going to talk about that I looked at all my C2C leagues, Cory, and I have one share of him, but he is available in all my leagues. So I'm going to be very tempted in my supplemental drafts to take a shot with this kid. So I'm excited to talk about him. So that's the fun of the game that we play in Devy. So enough chatting. Let's get to it. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in. If you play Dynasty out there and you want to find a channel that will get you ready for your future Dynasty assets, this is the channel for you. So hit that subscribe button, the like button, and of course, leave us a comment. So Cory, I'm going to let you lead us off with your first Devy buy of the 2023 season.
Well, that is very nice of you, Brandon. I am going to start off with a little bit of a softball here, okay? And I'm going to go and I'm going to talk about a guy some guys have been talking about this offseason, but I'm going to head over to Florida State and talk about running back Trey Benson. I just want to say, if you've been feeling shaky about all the people talking about him, you're not sure if you want to buy in yet, I'm here to give you the green light on this guy and go ahead and get this guy. I've been following this kid for a while, starting back in his days at Oregon, had that gruesome knee injury that made me wonder if he was ever going to look like the prospect that I watched and kind of fell in love with. And then, transfers over to Florida State. You had Trayshawn Ward, their running back, very good running back in his own right, had Lawrence Toafili, another guy. So it was unclear how Benson was kind of going to fit into this room. But first game of the season right away, put on a show right away, rushing for over 100 yards on just 11 carries and an absurd 11 forced missed tackles in just that one game on 11 carries. So he was forcing a missed tackle on every carry he's had. So his role continuously grew throughout the season as well. Then an injury to the starter, Trayshawn Ward, essentially made Benson the spotlight guy. After week 7, averaged 16 carries, 123 scrimmage yards, and 1.3 touchdowns per game the rest of the season. He finished top 3 in missed tackles forced, top 3 in yards after contact per attempt, and breakaway percentage in all of the Power 5, all Power 5 running backs, top 3 in all those things. His forced missed tackle rate was the best in college football. Yes, that's higher than our Lord and Savior Bijan Robinson. So he was forcing missed tackles more than he was. He's 6'1", up to 222 pounds this offseason after being 215 last year. And with his play style, a little bit of a slipperiness in the open field, not always a guy who's going to string together a million moves, more a guy who can bounce off contact. He really gives shades of Javonte Williams. That's kind of like the comp that I've been kind of running with a little bit. He's now playing with the Broncos. And now we're looking at the situation he's walking into. Trayshawn Ward transferred out this season. He's going to Kansas State. The emergence of Florida State's passing game, the additions that they're adding as well, is going to take some pressure off of Benson as well. I could see Benson absolutely having a massive, massive season this year. So I could see him eventually ending up as a top 5 back in next year's class. In fact, he's already my running back 4 for 2024, which is good enough to be ranked as running back 9 overall in my rankings.
I like it. So he's somebody that we need to do a film review on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we just, we got to do that. So yeah, he's, I think the next year everyone's kind of looking at that running back class, and I think there's going to be a lot of changes to that running back class by the time we get to the draft next year. I know who we all think is at the top right now, but I love that pick. You're gonna throw a softball out there in the beginning of the show. I'm gonna throw a hard ball out here at the beginning of the show, because I'm gonna go with a guy that hasn't even freaking played yet a full season in college football. He's a junior. It's a quarterback, Carson Beck, playing for Georgia this year. He's been sitting on the bench for 2 years, watching Stetson Bennett go to 2 national championships. First thing I like about this kid is the size. First off, let's talk about, he was a 5-star prospect. Let's not forget, in the 2020 class, he was the 5th ranked quarterback in the class. 6'4", 215 pounds. So right off the bat, he's got that size. There was so many questions about size with Bryce Young and everything, so we can just not worry about that. But now I did a film on this YouTube channel of his spring game, and I know we can't take too much away from spring games, right? But what I did like, I thought he showed a lot of the things that we look for in quarterbacks, right? He had the arm talent. He threw a lot of like really good passes. I thought short term, intermediate, and threw a nice touch on his deep ball. He went through his progressions, and I liked his ability to maneuver in the pocket. That's what I came away most impressed with, was his ability to move around. He threw some play, some throws off platform a little bit. I watched an interview on him on YouTube. He had like two really good interviews, and he said how much he learned from Stenton Bennett. He knows this offense like the back of his hand. He's going to be the starter this year. Let's look at the depth chart right now. And I know Gunnar Stockton's a flashy Devy name, and Brock Vandegrift is a flashy, name. Those two guys, after watching the spring game compared to Beck, it's without question, there's no way either of those two are going to get on the field. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if those two players transfer, because next year, the news that came out this week was Dylan Raiola. Is that how you say his last name?
Yep. That's right. Yep.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty bad at names.
You're getting better. You're getting better.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I mean, he's going to come in, next year as a freshman, and we've seen Georgia lean on veterans when it comes to playing the positions, right? So I think if Carson Beck this year comes out and plays well, he's going to keep Dylan on the bench for his freshman season next year, knowing that then Dylan will play, for maybe 2 years, right? So I think in Georgia's mind, they're set up. I think if Carson Beck doesn't come out and play poorly, that they're looking at Carson Beck being their 2-year guy. But why I like Beck so much, I like what I saw in the spring film, but I think he's on the best team that's going to give him the success to be a good passer. He's going to have that great offensive line. He's got a great coaching staff. He's got everything set up perfectly. He's got some, probably not the best receivers in college football, but he's got the best tight end in football, who's going to be his security blanket, with 2 or 3 other really nice tight ends on that team. They're going to be focused on the run. So he's not going to have all that pressure of being the guy that's going to have to win for Georgia. It's going to be the same old Georgia winning with defense and running the football. And this kid's not going to be asked to do much, which I think is going to be really, really good for his development. In those interviews, it was great too, because he said that if he was asked to play his freshman year, he would have been an ultimate disaster. He mentally and was very honest about saying, I was nowhere near ready, but now he's so hungry and he's ready. And I think after next year's class, right, it's all about Caleb Williams and Drake May. And after that, I mean, people are talking about Penix or whatever. But I think Carson Beck, even if he has a phenomenal year, he comes back again and plays for 2 years, and he's relatively free. I mean, nobody is, like I said, all my supplemental drafts, I've got 5 C2C leagues. I have him in one league, and someone else in one other league has him. And then all the other teams, he's still out there to be chosen. So I'm saying, okay, he's a Devy buy because he's free. So he's getting a little bit of buzz because maybe it's something I'm creating. And I know your buddy on your podcast.
Yep.
He put something out on Twitter recently and saying he was in his top 5 or 6 for the draft next year of the top 2024 quarterbacks. So I know Mike, your podcast co-host, likes him too. I'm all in on Carson Beck for his price right now, and the upside that he could potentially be this time next year. If he comes out and has a great year tossing the ball around, he is going to be an NFL quarterback prospect.
Yeah, no, I love that call. And you're right. We've been looking into Carson Beck a little bit. I actually wrote his profile for C2C. So I've been like drilling it into Mike a little bit too, that he looks really good in the stuff that I watched. He finally got around to watching him, and he's a top 5 quarterback for him now going into next year. So I watched the late game stuff last year in mop-up duty. Looked very good there, going through his progressions, handling the pocket very well. And then again, the spring game this year looked miles ahead of the rest of the guys like Vandegrift and Stockton. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not here in the near future, especially with Raiola coming in. So I love that call. I think he's a good talent. So
so I've got him ranked 13th overall in my Devy ranks on my Devy dashboard, and 5th in the 2024 class. So I know we're kind of putting our ranks out there at the end of each player. So
nice.
Who you got for your second buy?
All right. I want to bring some attention to a certain Houston wide receiver that not enough people are talking about. His name is Matthew Golden. He's going into his sophomore season. I feel like there's still a lot of people out there who don't know enough about Golden, are kind of resistant to fully buying in. Well, I'm here to tell you It's time to squash those fears and get you some shares of Mr. Golden. He was a high 4-star prospect, okay, 6 foot, 190 pounds, right around that trendy wide receiver size nowadays with guys like Olave and guys like Garrett Wilson, those separation creators that we really love. And this was a guy who came from one of Texas' hardest high school competition levels, totaled almost 3,000 yards in his final high school season. Extremely versatile player, operated as a returner, receiver, even took some snaps out of the backfield, which we love to see. We love to see that versatility. Everybody wants to call those guys Debo. He's not Debo, okay, but he'll take a couple snaps out of the backfield and do well with it. So with all that being said, we really shouldn't be that surprised that he made such a strong, underrated, I almost want to say, impression in his first season with the Cougars last year as a freshman. Almost 600 yards through the air, including 2 games over 100 yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, which was good enough for a school record as a true freshman. And then even just looking at the player, extremely fluid mover for his size, very snappy off the line, quick in and out of his breaks, great foot speed, and he's a track athlete. He owns plenty of impressive times in the 100 meter under 11 seconds. So now he's walking into a role that we just saw Nathaniel Tank Dell. He's been going off like crazy in his offense for the past 2 years, over 1,300 yards and almost for the past 2 seasons, and almost 30 touchdowns combined over the past 2 seasons. So it's a very concentrated offense to their main guy. That essentially helped Tank Dell, even with his size, earn him 3rd-day draft capital. And I mean, that guy might get blown away in the wind if the gust blows hard enough. You know what I mean? So now we're talking about a guy who brings a little bit more size to the table, a wide receiver room which loses its top 2 receivers in Dell, and another guy who's trying his luck at the NFL as well. And Houston's joining the Big 12. So we're gonna get that shiny Power 5 label on his profile that we all want. So I am very high on Golden and his potential in this offense. I've got him coming in as a top 12 Devy wide receiver. He's actually right at number 12 right now. So I'm excited for him, and I'm excited to see where this year is going to go. I have a feeling he's going to finally get the attention he deserves after this season. So now is your time to go and buy.
I like it. Yeah, he was a hot commodity last year. So
yeah,
had a good freshman season. So it's all you can ask for. My guy, I'm going to go with Dorian Singer, U.S. wide receiver. He's going to be a junior this year, 6'1", 185 pounds. So I've been watching a lot of tape. In fact, on this channel, I'm going to be putting out a 3-game film review on him in the next few days. So make sure you check that out. He's transferring from Arizona to USC. Okay, and why shouldn't he? Because he roasted USC last year for 7 catches, 141 yards, and 3 touchdowns in that game. But he was a walk-on at Arizona 2 years ago. And then in 2022, he played 12 games, had 66 catches for over 1,100 yards, averaging 16.7 yards a catch with 6 TDs. And he did all of that production alongside Jacob Coing and Tataria McMillan, an incoming freshman who created a lot of excitement. So he ends up leaving and going to USC. I watched an interview with Dorian Singer, and a reporter had asked him, when you entered your name into the transfer portal, who was the first team that reached out to you? And he said it was USC within a few hours that said, we want to bring you to Southern California. So that was one of his reasons why when he did transfer the portal, that's where he went. But he's going to get a starting role this year. I know everyone's excited about Zachariah Branch, and you got Lemon and all these incoming freshmen. Brendan Rice is another player I really like, who is a sneaky 2024 NFL draft sleeper that I've been out there saying for a while. And Mario Williams is a player I'm not really super high on. I think he's a twitchy guy who gets open based on scheme more than a skill set. And at least I think this year maybe we'll see something different. But going back to Singer, I think he's in a great opportunity. I think he's going to start in the Z position. In the interview, he's been working on the outside, which is, he's got that versatility. He played 70% of his snaps out wide and 30% in the slot last year. So he's got that versatility we like, but I like his game, man. The first thing that stands out to me is his ball skills and hands. Had over 70% catch percentage last year. I like the way he high points the ball. I think he's a route runner. I think he can create space. I think his yak ability is good. From what I've seen on the film. Like I said, I just did a 3-game film review, so I've been watching him a lot lately. And I like his inside and outside versatility, like we talked about. And I think he's got some speed. I think he's going to be a 4.4 guy. And I just like what I've seen on film. So, he's a guy that is going to USC. I think it's going to give him a little bit more exposure playing with Lincoln Riley. I think his stock can only go up. Now, if he goes to USC and has a great season and becomes Mario Williams I'm sorry, Caleb Williams is, go-to guy. I know they spread the ball there, but
Mhm.
Addison's out right now. So if Dorian Singer can come in there and be that primary guy and primary target, I think he has the ability to see his draft stock rise. Now, whether he declares next year or not, he'll have 1 year more of eligibility. But again, I think this guy is relatively cheap. I mean, maybe not to some people now because he's getting that buzz going to USC. But
Mhm.
if we look at the NFL and the receivers, he fits this perfect mold that I think that he's not too small, he's not too big, and if he can create space and have good yak ability, he's got great hands, strong hands, man. He's great at the catch point. Chris Olave, 6'1", 189. Garrett Wilson, 6', 192. Jaden Reed is a player that I comp him to getting round two draft capital, who this time last year, nobody, and I'm telling you, nobody thought Jaden Reed was going to get day two draft capital. I think he could have that kind of rise. So Dorian Singer, I'm a fan.
Yeah, no, I couldn't pound the table hard enough for everything you just said, honestly. Between what your thoughts on with Mario Williams, your thoughts on Brendan Rice as well. Maybe that's for a later sleeper show, but I'm with you
Sure.
100% on that one. But Dorian Singer lined up with a Heisman winning quarterback. He's going to be putting up crazy numbers. He's going to get the attention he deserves over there. So it's a great spot for him over there. I'm gonna go to my last guy over here, and I've kind of got this reputation within your Devy dashboard chat now that I always love these running backs with very unique backstories or all over the place, coming
Mhm.
from different places, and I always kind of fall in love with these backstories. Well, heading over to another one in Utah running back Jaquindon Jackson. Okay, he's getting a little bit of buzz, still not high enough for my liking, but he's a high four-star kid, 6'2", 226 pounds. So right there, we're checking off the boxes from a size standpoint, but going to his backstory, he was actually the former number 3 overall dual threat quarterback in 2020. Same class with CJ Stroud, same class with Bryce Young. So there's a little bit of age there, but there's some context to give you now, right? Originally committed to Texas, ended up transferring at the end of his freshman season over to Utah. Didn't really get much playing time in that first season at Utah. Was still trying to make it as a quarterback. Realized that maybe quarterback just isn't his thing, right? He was a rushing quarterback, so I'm a great rusher with the ball. I'm just going to focus on being a running back. Utah coaches said the same thing. Let's just try to be a running back. So made the switch, start focusing on just playing running back. And it's fair to say he may have found his calling over the last season. Only received 16 touches through the first 4 weeks, received 62 over the final 6 games, rushed for 466 rushing yards, and scored 8 touchdowns during that time. Not crazy gaudy numbers, but still good enough for an impressive 7.5 yards per carry average over that time. Forced a missed tackle on 40% of his attempts, had a 4.22 yards yards per carry after contact, which is good enough for the 8th best number in the entire Power 5. So for a guy who really didn't focus on playing running back until this season, the growth he showed from the beginning of the season to the end of the season was notable to me. The instincts improved, his manipulation on the second level improved. He became a very more relaxed runner. And for a guy that's just like scratching the surface for his upside at running back, it just was a very all impressive impressive performance in year one. Now he enters a situation where Tavion Thomas, their starter from a year ago, he heads off to the NFL now. Last year was a bit of a shaky year for them at running back, but Utah has been known to give a pretty hefty workload to their main running back. Tavion Thomas got 204 carries in 2021. Ty Jordan, rest in peace, the guy who tragically passed away, was averaging 20 touches a game in 2020. And of course, everybody remembers Zach Moss, who ran the ball 245 times in 2019. So Jaquindon Jackson still very raw at the position. Sometimes he runs a little upright, and we need to see how he's going to develop as that potential pass catcher. But everything is pointing to Utah kind of getting behind him as the guy this season, and he should have every chance to continue to build upon his game. So entering the season, I'm extremely high on this guy. I'm almost scared to say where I have him ranked, but he is my running back 20 overall. So I have a lot of faith in him to kind of grow, and I think he has a lot of traits that the NFL is going to like.
I like it. I like it. I'm going to go back to Dorian Singer. I forgot to say I got him 18th overall in my wide receiver ranks, 8th in the 2024 class.
Nice.
I like that. I haven't watched a lot.
There isn't a whole lot to watch. It's just the back half of the season where you kind of saw it through the progression of those 6 games, just enough to give you a glimpse to be kind of
Of,
excited heading into this year,
yeah. Well, my third player, I'm going to talk about a running back too. Maybe a softball here to end the show, but nonetheless, a player that I really like, and that's Trevor Etienne from Florida. I think I made a game film of him on one of his games last year, and what sold me was his footwork. I mean, I'm just going to come right out and say it. I think this guy's got the lateral movement. He's 5'9", 207 pounds. He's a three-star prospect. Last year, he had 118 carries, 719 yards, averaging 6 yards a carry. He had only 9 receptions for 66 yards. Now, he shared the backfield with Montrell Johnson, and he's going to share the backfield again with Montrell Johnson. But what's going to be nice about this year is Anthony Richardson is now in the NFL, and his 103 carries and 654 yards and 9 touchdowns are now gone. And in comes Graham Mertz, who
You're not going to get that from Mertz, that's for sure.
I'm gonna give you his stats here. He had 50 carries for minus 40 yards last year. The big difference. And I think ETN I love watching interviews. I go back and read things, and I do a lot of research, preparing for these shows. And ETN is excited, both him and Johnson, because now they're going to be getting fed the ball. I mean, it's 103 carries that are now going to be distributed to those two guys. There's no one else in this team that is going to be really touching the ball from the backfield. Now, ETN has said in his offseason, he's working on his pass catching. He's working on his blocking. And what I love it too, he's just got the bloodlines, right? His brother plays in the NFL, and he was talking that he's already rubbing shoulders with all the pro guys working out in the offseason with his brother and all that. And I don't know, I just feel like he's got aspirations to get to the NFL. He's saying all the right things, man. But listen, from a film standpoint, there's 3 things that stand out to me about him that I like. His footwork is lateral movement ability, and his stop-go ability is really impressive. I mean, you go watch any highlight video on YouTube on this guy. He is stop cutting, jump cutting, which then leads to me to say that he's got some pretty good vision because he can see where he wants to go, and he's got the athleticism and footwork to do what his mind wants him to do. And what else I like about him that I don't see about on a lot of college players is running with good pad level and his contact balance. This kid runs he's a low center of gravity, just his build. We did a Braylon Allen film. I did a Raheem Sanders film, and you'd be surprised if you go watch those films on this channel, how upright those two players run, which again, not something that they can't, fix, but this guy just runs with toughness, tenacity. And I'll tell you, you go watch his Georgia game from last year. He did some outside runs, man, where the Georgia Bulldog defenders were chasing him, and he's got a little bit of juice to hit those outside runs too. So I think it's a massive season coming. Montrell Johnson is not someone I've watched enough film on, but that's somebody who's got the skill or the size too that maybe we should also take a little deeper look at. But Trevor Etienne is a player that I really like. I've got him ranked 14th overall and 4th in the 2025 class. And he's behind Singleton, Judkins, and Robinson. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, we've seen from this year's draft, I mean, Tajay Spears, a smaller player, Gibbs, close to 200. There's another one that's up there too that, I mean, A-Chain, right? I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
A-Chain could be a fascinating story to see if he hits, our dynasty roster standpoint. So, I mean, coming in where he is at, 5'9", 207, he's probably going to be 212 by the time he gets to the NFL draft. He's got that size, but I like Trevor Etienne. I think he's a guy that I think you're going to wait 2 years to get to your dynasty roster. But I think if he has a big season, you're going to see a lot more people talking about Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, and the weight is actually something I'm not super concerned with him. There was reports of him in high school playing at around like 220 at one point, and then he slimmed down, and now he's playing at more of a good weight. Because there was actually, if you look at some pictures, kind of looked like a little bit of bad weight, but it's nice to see he got in the weight room, trimmed himself down, and it shows up on the field. And this was a guy too, looking at his freshman profile, I was concerned about his transition from the high school offense he played in. It was a very weird, like half the field rollout, and he caught a lot of balls. So again, even looking at Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne's pass catching numbers, I actually have faith that Etienne might be like a good pass catcher. He just didn't get the opportunity, but we saw it on his high school film. And then so the transition coming from that system into here, I thought it was going to be a learning curve, but he impressed the hell out of me in year one. It like blew me away in year one. So I'm with you. He's definitely up there for me. He's definitely a top 20 back for me. I can't remember where exactly, but somewhere definitely in that range too, either 16, 17, something like that. So he's very high up there for me as well. So I love that call from you.
Yeah. So, all right, there you guys got it. Those are our 6 Devy buys for the 2023 upcoming season. I guess we should start preparing for our 2023 Devy sell shows. Do not go back and look at my Devy 2022 Devy Celsius, please.
Yeah.
Do not.
Yeah, we'll pretend some of those don't exist. I'll just
please. I got to do a much better job this year, and this is full transparency here on the YouTube channel. So, Cory, as always, man, thank you for joining me, buddy.
Yeah, anytime, buddy.
Thanks.